Are you serious? Are you serious? I'm with Stephen Bendanoon. We're here in Orlando, Florida, and it's a pleasure to be with you, your wife. We've had a great time this afternoon.
We have.
And so, look, let's just get right into it. We've been talking about a lot of things, and I just got off your show, but what's going on in Europe? What's going on with Ukraine and Russia? I mean, how long is this situation going to remain in a state of turmoil? What's your information you have?
You know, Pastor Paul, that's a good question as far as how long. You know, knowing how long is really hard to determine right now. The problem is the tensions between eastern Ukraine and that of western Ukraine is not dying down.
Is it about the oil? Is it about the pipeline oil?
Well, you know, all of that plays a part in it. We have to go back and look at why this happened to begin with. I mean, the Maidan coup, Russia said the CIA was involved in that. They were the ones that toppled it. They actually, in the documentary called The Way Home, or Crimea, The Way Home, Putin actually plays the clip between the U.S. Embassy under Obama's, and I like to say this, under President Obama's administration. It's not under President Trump.
No, this Trump's not, it's not his fault
No,
this happened.
not at all. But they were playing, he was playing this between the U.S. Embassy and that with the Ukrainian military over in Crimea. And they were discussing what they needed to do. There's so much that was happening there, Pastor Paul, and we've really seen a lot of this under Obama's administration, just like in Syria, the destabilizing of the country with coups before to make it look like it's going to be a civil
Well, the whole
war.
Arab Spring. In the year 2011, it started with Tunisia, Egypt, Libya, Yemen, Syria. And then, about the time that all got in a big mess, you know, Russia took Crimea, I understand, in 2014. But you're saying the whole thing was an uprising. He kept calling it the Arab Spring of democracy. There was no democracy in this.
It wasn't about democracy. You know, just like with Tunisia. When Tunisia happened, because I was in Washington, D.C., when Obama was president, with his own Secret Service agent, there was a friend of mine, and he said to me, this was right after this black woman that had, with her child in the car, crashed the White House gate. They shot her. This was right after the black man at the mall in D.C. set himself on fire.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And he says to me, Pastor Paul, he says, do you think, Steve, they did, like in the case of the woman, she just did it to do it? He said, Stephen, he said, listen.
No.
He says, we have the technology. We put it in the guy's head to do what he did in Tunisia. And he said it worked.
Wow.
He said, we wanted an Arab Spring. We wanted an uprising. He said, and in the United States, and he was telling me this.
Now, remember, Hillary Clinton's the Secretary of State during this, and she's behind this whole move also.
Yes. And he said to me then, he said the whole thing was, he said what happened in D.C., we're trying to get the people to the administration was trying to get the people to riot. And he shows me the very letter that Obama had received from the United Nations that had said to Obama, what will you do to disarm the United States?
What was the answer?
Well, that was the United Nations wanted to know what Obama was
what he was going to do to disarm.
He wanted to bring about a major unrest in the country, a civil riot, a civil war,
a racial war,
like it happened in Tunisia.
Yeah.
All right, in order to do so. Now, here's the funny thing, Pastor Paul. President Putin, what does he say to Americans? Keep your guns.
Yeah.
He said, don't let them take your guns.
No, because you do, it's over.
And this is supposed to be the big bad boogeyman.
But he's telling American people, hang on to your guns or you'll lose your country.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is what they were trying to do. Now, the same thing happened in Ukraine.
Okay.
Now, it started by one, Yanukovych wanted to be, he was the original president.
I remember.
He wanted to be part of the European Union.
Yes, he did. And Russia didn't want him to be.
They didn't want him to be.
No.
But he wanted the cake and eat it too.
Right.
All right. He wanted to keep ties with Russia.
Yeah.
And the whole deal was over the gas to begin with.
Yeah.
And Russia was offering the natural gas to their country at a much cheaper price than what they would have gotten from the European Union or the United States and building this other pipeline in there.
So he wants to keep that relationship open.
He wants a relationship with Russia because it would save his people money.
Right.
But
Lots
he wanted
of
to be
money.
part of also with the European Union. Well, when the West saw this happening under Obama's administration, and it's not just Obama, this is the European Union as well,
I know.
they weren't going to have it. They wanted to make the money off the Ukrainians, which they would have paid more money for in the first place, so they orchestrate this coup.
Wow.
And this is what brought this down. Now, Yukhanovich, they say that, oh, Russia invaded. Russia didn't, the only time Russia come in was because Yukhanovich didn't push down
The rebels, the
rebels to
uprising.
begin the uprising. Now, a good friend of mine, in fact, Yana's father is Ukrainian.
Yes.
All right, and he's not from the eastern side of the Russian side. He's from
He's
the
on the
western
western
side.
side, okay.
All right, so this is not about Russia or
not a biased thing
or
here.
the West.
Right.
But the groups that they were using in Ukraine were all neo-Nazi fascists. They intentionally chose a group that hated Yanukovych.
Yeah.
And that's the way they figured they could overthrow
And they
this.
supported him in some way. They funded him a little bit.
Right. Well, here's what happened. Because a good friend of mine, I'll just say his first name. His name's Sergei. I won't
Okay.
say his last name. His whole family is from Ukraine. He lives here in America.
Okay.
He listens to Israeli News Live. He'll probably die if he knows I'm saying this. But I won't say his
Well,
last
this is
name.
on
So
Paul
Sergei,
Beckett. It's on Paul Beckett.
Okay, so you don't have to worry about it. But anyway, Sergei, we've been friends for many years.
Yeah.
When the coup began to happen, we were catching on Israeli News Live at the very beginning and showing the videos of the snipers killing these men that were unarmed. And I couldn't understand this. Is this Russia? Is this the Ukrainian government? Is this the coup people? Well, from what I understand, it was Yanukovych's people that were taking them out. So I contact Sergei. His family is there. His family is not the Russian side either. They're also from the western side.
Right.
And I said to him, Sergei, I showed him my news clip. I said, why are they killing these innocent civilians? He said, Stephen, I already know this because my family has shared this with me. He said, we're very poor in this country. The Catholics in the country have paid us very good money if we're willing to protest. But we have to be willing to protest even at the pain of death.
Wow.
And he said they were funding the men to go out in the street
Funding
and
the
protest,
uprising.
even though they knew they would lose their lives by Yanukovych's group that's trying to crush the rebellion.
Right.
And of course, what happens? No, we find out even later because Joe Biden, in his memoir recently that just came out, was talking about how he tells them when he's leaving the country, you got 6 hours in order to fire the guy that you have for the state's prosecutor,
Right.
or else you won't get any more funding.
Right.
So Obama's administration was so heavily involved in trying to overthrow Yanukovych and put Petro Poroshenko in.
Right. And which they ended up pulling that off.
They actually pull it off. So
Yes,
they do
they
pull
do.
it off. Now here's the sad side, Brother Paul, that I see. You know, because in the beginning it was not a matter about Eastern or Western, Russian or Nazi side, because not all the people in Western Ukraine are Nazis by no means.
Right.
There are many of them that are just, we have the
They're
Jewish
just common
people there.
people. You're right.
And Netanyahu was telling the
Yeah,
Jews,
they're just
get out
trying
or they're
survive.
going to kill you.
Yeah, they're just trying to survive.
Right? So, but what happens when I'm looking at what's happening here, the one thing that I noticed that really disturbed me, both the Roman Catholics and the Russian Orthodox, their priests are coming in there and blessing their troops. Blessing them, kill them. Blessing them on the other side, kill them. You got two groups
You
that are
can't.
supposed to be Christians,
Yeah, you can't.
and just because, we get it like today. You get Baptists don't like the Pentecostals don't like the Baptists, the Catholics don't like the Baptists, back and forth, little
Right.
squabbles. But normally we can kind of keep it to where, okay, it's
You don't
just a
kill each
squabble.
other,
We
right.
don't kill each
No,
other.
no.
But here in this situation, they're killing one another, and they're being blessed by the priests, by the Russian side as well as by the Roman Catholic side.
So it's a political move to again destabilize the
Yes,
nation.
it's to destabilize
So
the nation.
Obama, and he got the Nobel Peace Prize, by the way. President Obama did.
Wonderful.
It was the biggest
Can you
joke. It's
imagine?
really the biggest joke ever. But he did nothing but destabilize regions.
Yes.
He destabilized regions, Europe and the Middle East, and
And the Democrats are calling foul about being involved, the Russians being involved in American elections.
Yeah, but
and
no,
what,
no, no.
what was Obama doing?
Right.
He was involved in
With all
Ukraine,
of those countries.
Israel, Syria.
And
trying to
let's
throw
face
with
it,
all of
and he
them.
was also involved in our American. He was the one in the collusion involved
Yes.
in trying to tear down the Trump campaigns,
Yes.
along with Hillary Clinton and the rest of the dossier and all that
Yes.
fake. It was a fake move. We know that this is all part of it. So when you look, folks, things that you see on the news is not always what they appear to be.
No.
There's always somebody. I mean, nobody just rises up and causes trouble if you're living peaceably.
And let me say this too, Pastor Paul, for your listeners as well, because on Israeli News Live, because we try to be unbiased, we get called Russian News Live.
Russian
I get comments
propaganda.
that Steve married a Russian, and this is why he stands for Putin. All right. First off, my wife is not Russian. She grew up in the Soviet Union, despised the communism because her family was persecuted because they were Christians.
Right.
And she was accepted in medical school to be a medical doctor, but when they found out she was not Roman Catholic, she was thrown out.
Yeah.
So, these are the things. She always despised the Soviet Union because of the oppression they went under.
Right.
So the last thing is to glorify a country that she's been oppressed by. But the thing is we've watched what happened. We've seen every move that Obama was making. When they would bring out in our Western media, Putin is making 40 new ICBMs. Well, the thing is we were filming the trainloads, because we were living in Europe, the trainloads of military tanks that were being taken to the front lines to try to defeat the eastern side, the Russian side of the Ukrainians. And of course, Putin was not going to let Crimea go.
No.
That was his naval port.
But it makes sense. It's 90% of the Crimean people speak Russian. They would rather be under Moscow.
Yes.
But it's more stable. It's more their culture. It just made sense. And
Exactly.
strategically, it made a tremendous advantage for Russia to have those ports. That one I could totally understand that one. Eastern Ukraine, it's a different story. I blame that all on Obama firing that all up, and now we
And
got this
Putin would
mess.
not accept them being independent for the longest time
Right.
because he knew that Ukraine should stay Ukraine. The only time when he finally gave way is because the Minsk agreements were never honored. Right now, they have moved 82 brigades over to launch a new attack on that side there. Petro Poroshenko is not going to let this go down. And it's not, I don't even know if it's Petro Poroshenko as much as it is he's being pressured by the powers of the deep state, not just in America, but in Europe as well, that he has to do what he's going to do.
The globalists, the New World Order, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call it, it's this globalist movement. It's the beast. It's the beast trying to rise. Folks, this is Stephen Ben-Noon. He is the expert, in my opinion. If you really want to understand European political and the spiritual ramifications, biblical ramifications, he's excellent and does a great job covering it at Israeli News Live. Not just Europe, but of course the Middle East, Israel, and all around the world. It's been a pleasure.
God bless you, Brother Paul. Bless
so
all
check
of you
out his
guys.
website. Go to his channel at Israeli News Live. And your website.
IsraeliNewsLive.org.
And your website, Stephen?
IsraeliNewsLive.org.
There you go. Check it out. God bless.
God bless you.